And maybe. Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to the show. It is happy July. I guess it's been July for a while. It's July 7th, 2025. We haven't met. I'm Mayer Cunningham, Special Education Boss, training everyone that sits at the 504 IEP table to navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes. We have really exciting news coming. We're about to pre-launch the pre-orders for my special education book that's coming out. So very soon we'll have a pre-order page with tons of bonuses. You guys have been asking for a book for a very long time, and we finished it, and so we're so excited to get it to you guys. That will be coming soon. So tonight we're going to take all of your questions on the show and answer all things special education. If you have a question, just put it in the chat wherever you are. If you have a question and you're hearing this somewhere else, just send us an email to advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. And ladies and gentlemen, let the questions begin.
Is it too late to join your 2-day intensive class?
No, it's never too late to join. You can always join it on demand, which means that you get it, and it's a recording, so you have it forever. And really why you want to do the 2-day right now is for the first time ever in the whole 4.5 years that we've had the Special Education Academy, it's half price. So for the month of July 2025, when you check out at Special Education Academy and get the 2-day intensive on demand, which you can watch at any time, you don't have to start it right away, it's half price. So in the discount code, just put in the word July. 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 Just in case. It's not a clever spelling. It's just the regular. Regular. Can you believe such a hot, sizzling summer special?
It is spectacular.
Yes.
When I take the 2-day on demand, if I have questions, how do I get them answered?
Well, you don't, because it's a recording, but certainly we want all of you to, when you buy the 2-day on demand or the 2-day in person, it comes with a month free to Special Education Academy. But everybody at the sound of my voice and the reach of my hand should be in Special Education Academy. It's weekly professional development. It's phenomenal. Ask any teacher from Georgia. It's the best.
The SLP lied on student attendance sheets. What are your thoughts, and what should I do?
So lie is kind of a serious word. So I would approach it from, errors happen, right? She might have transpose your child's name with another child's name. So I would first ask for the accurate records for my child's logs to receive a related service under IDEA. And then based upon that response, I would move forward. If you think that your student's been denied special education and related services, then you can certainly look into filing a state complaint.
Okay. What are your thoughts on teachers who were paras before becoming a teacher? I was a para for 4.5 years before becoming a teacher, and I find my time as a para to be super valuable in the general education classroom, and super valuable when I attend an IEP meeting as a general education teacher. I just want to know your thoughts about it as well.
Yeah, I would agree. You are SV. You are super valuable. So one of the things that we love to do at Special Education Academy is we have the privilege and honor and blessing of training school-based members to become even better advocates. But anytime that you are in this space and you continue to serve students, we are super excited about that. So thank you for being a para. Thank you for being a teacher.
What do I do if they say they don't have reading intervention, only math?
I would say, are we in America? Because I feel like reading happens in America. So we have intervention for whatever a student needs. So I would ask if that's misinformation or you need to speak to somebody else at this school.
Okay. What do I do after filing a state complaint? The school still will not follow the IEP.
So it's a multi-answer question. So when you file a state complaint, that is a process. If it's sufficient, the state will open it up and look at your allegations that you made that were violations of federal code. The district has, the state will use 60 calendar days to complete the investigation. At the end of the investigation, they will email you a determination of findings. And then based upon those determination of findings, you probably are required to go back to an IEP meeting and work out those pieces that the state identified. If still that's not occurring, file again. Just keep bringing the heat.
Hey y'all. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong one. Hi, I'm a high school special education teacher for a virtual charter school in Utah. Our head of school has been pushing for a more
Asynchronicity. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a city outside of the other cities. Asynchronicity. We miss this city and rocket. Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, I love that. A format for all classes meaning little or no live classes. Is there a way to work with their wishes and still stay compliant with service minutes and SDI?
Well, I would be hard pressed how you're going to deliver SDI to little humans over the interweb. So, so that was something that we used sort of as a Band-Aid during the pandemic. But kids need to be in classrooms now being taught by amazing general ed teachers, special ed teachers, and support staff members.
So the person who posted about the SLP not telling the truth about the minutes, she said that she is a teacher and she is concerned about the minutes not being received. And is there anything that she can do?
Not if you want to keep your job. I'm just telling you that honestly. I've done this for 800,000 years with 4 billion people, and I've never met anybody yet, maybe one of my partners has, who was a school-based member, a board member, a staff member, a deliverer of services that reported a problem to leadership, that it was received lovingly and thankfully. So if it was received by you lovingly and thankfully, please put in the comments lovingly and thankfully. We would like to move to wherever you live.
Can anyone be an advocate?
Anyone could say that they are an advocate. So there's no legal requirements because a parent under their procedural rights and safeguards are allowed to bring somebody to support them, and they should. As most IEP meetings that I attend, the school brings 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 18 people. So I don't think it's unfair for the parent to bring an advocate. There's no specific criterion for, certification. We did just pass a law in Texas that there are going to be some new requirements for advocates, which is completely fine with me. But we train advocates that way. An advocate is somebody that speaks on behalf of somebody else, right? So we want to train you to speak correctly, work correctly, be collaborative, know inside and out what is the state and federal statutes, how they apply to individual disabilities, and more importantly, how to craft an amazing, fantastic, individualized education program that changes students' successful outcomes.
Hello, I requested an IEE in early June. The school has yet to determine their decision. Any thoughts? What do I do? How long do I wait?
So there is no timeline for the district to tell you whether or not they're going to grant the IEE. We would say under the statute a reasonable time. Whoever knows what that is. June also, probably wherever you live, school was out. So these sorts of things are only required to be addressed during school days. So I certainly would just send a gentle, because I'm gentle, a gentle nudging email, bumping this up to the top, wondering if you have vendors that I can choose from for an IEE.
My principal thinks LRE is always general education, no matter the severity of the disability. How do I explain this to her? What words would you use?
Oh, what words would I use? Oh, I have so many words. So here's what I would say to your friend that thinks that LRE is general ed. Good news is the word general education is not even inside of LRE. Isn't that amazing? The word general education is not inside of LRE. So, least restrictive environment, is a requirement that we have. It's a consideration. It's not a location. So we need to make sure that we are delivering that. The law says that we are required to educate students with disabilities to the maximum extent possible with their non-disabled peers with support strategies and supplementary aids. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, but it never uses the word general ed. So I would type in IDEA and government and pull up the statute for least restrictive environment.
I need help with one of my 5th graders. The school gave her eligibility of an SLD, but I think she needs more. How do I request or get more?
You can get more without an eligibility. So the law requires that we write an IEP to enable the student to make progress appropriate in light of their circumstances. So that's a Supreme Court decision. You can find that at supremecourt.gov. That is Andrew F. ENDREW versus Douglas County School District in Colorado. And so that is the overarching standard now, the standard of FAPE, right? So FAPE has two prongs. Number one, did the LEA, did the local education agency, follow its state procedures? That's a procedural part. And then the substantive part, did the LEA write an IEP to enable the student to make progress appropriate in light of their circumstances? It never says anything about their disability or their eligibility. So you can have an eligibility and still have a need in the area. You could have an eligibility of autism and a speech impairment and need help with math computation.
Any advice for someone who has a child about to turn 18 as far as it goes with an IEP meeting?
So if you don't have guardianship, or you have not started the guardianship process for a minor with an IEP, once that individual turns 18, the IEP is then led by them, meaning that they could invite whoever they want. Hopefully, if you're the parent of the student, they'll invite you. But if you believe that your child needs guardianship, which is something really important to consider, then I would start that process with a probate attorney. Once you have the first filing in your district court, that will serve as sort of a holding place for you to continue to be the parental representation.
My son just started in-home ABA therapy, and they are very pushy on me buying supplies, and I've already spent $600. Thoughts?
Oh, do I have thoughts? So, in-home ABA is that's outside of the school district. So, ABA has its amazing benefit in a very short window, in my opinion, and you won't change it. And the reason that is, I've seen so many clients over the last 28, 29 years who literally, I believe, were trapped by ABA, and they had their child in an ABA setting for 8 hours a day, thinking that there was going to be an end to it. ABA can't be replicated in a school district because we do not have one person with one child doing one behavior, one action being reinforced over and over and over again. So I think for a short period of time and really acute situations, ABA is appropriate for students, but not long term. As it relates to supplies, I don't know what supplies they would be wanting you to buy. Unless it's hairspray, which should be a supply that every human has.
I am about to take the Praxis 5355. What advice would you give to me?
Study. Yeah, I mean, I would just be prepared for the test and do your very best. I'm sure you are ready to go. Somebody just put ABA is a joke and a money racket. Oh, Miranda, I want to be your best friend. See, Miranda said it. I didn't say it. But has Miranda ever been wrong? No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Our district wants to put SPED students in inclusion classes based on test scores. No IEP meeting at all. Help!
Sounds like you need a press conference from the special education boss. That is about 8 ways of discriminatory. No. I want to circle back to least restrictive environment. For our friend that asked earlier, least restrictive environment is 300.118. 300.118. So when you go back and talk to your leadership that is, stuck on general ed, make sure that you have that printed out.
Do you ever consult with school psychologists? And do you have legal background? I'm wondering for myself.
Do I ever consult with, I work with people all over the place. I work with parents. I train school districts. I'm a keynote speaker. So when I work with people, whether it's 1 hour one-on-one coaching, what I'm providing them is what my recommendations and my next steps. I'm not an attorney. I will never be an attorney. I am a non-attorney advocate, and so I always give people recommendations and next steps based upon my years of being in this space and expertise.
Can all students on an IEP be placed in 2 out of 5 general education classrooms?
That sounds about as segregation as what? That reminds me, what? No, what? Talk about predetermination. So predetermination is against the law, my law, your laws, all the laws. So let's not be doing that with children. So predetermination is a violation of the parent's procedural rights and safeguards.
When is the next 2-day live in person?
It's going to be Saturday. Is that right? I'm making this up. No, I was going to say this Saturday. Not this Saturday. It will be a different Saturday. It'll be July 19th and July 20th in beautiful Melbourne, Florida. It's about an hour outside of Orlando. That is the last live in person we have scheduled. So be there, be square. You can always take the 2-day on demand. So the 2-day on demand for the month of July 2025 is half off. When you check out, just put in the code July. And then, of course, you can always take the 2-day on demand at your convenience.
Is a service being provided? Now, if a service is being provided, is it not mandatory to have that verbiage in the IEP? And then it says BT 1-to-1.
BT 1-to-1. So if there's a special education service, it must be captured in the document. But there are services that are being provided that aren't in the document. So the great Elena is doing, response to intervention. The great Rachel is doing, MTSSSSSSSSS for the 14th year. So unless it's a special education service, it's not required to be listed on the services page.
What is the student to teacher ratio or teacher to para ratio in a self-contained classroom, kids ranging from kindergarten through 4th grade?
There isn't. Some states, very few states have guidance. Again, it's based on the acuity of their disabilities and their instructional and support needs. You could have a class of, 1 teacher and 30 children that were dyslexic, and that may be adequate. But certainly in a self-contained class, I hope that we're looking at the students' needs for their progress, their support, whether it's functional, behavioral, or cognitive.
What do you do when parents don't agree with the initial service time recommendations for the first IEP?
You have a conversation about what the data says. So we make all decisions based on one 4-letter word in special education: data. So the data should support the district's recommendation. That data should exist in the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance and drive those IEP goals, those accommodations, and those support services.
Is the Special Education Academy year-round, and how do I join?
It's year-round. You can come in your swimsuit. You can come in a wool coat. If you're in the bathtub, leave your camera off. So just go to specialeducationacademy.com and then go to trainings, and it's called The Academy. And we are year-round because, you know what? Special education is year-round, and the needs are always needing to be addressed.
Truth. The school wants my husband and I to sit in the class with our child. They said they don't have any aids for him. What do you think?
I think that you'd have to fill out a form to pick up your paycheck. Yeah, we're not in the business of, we don't have anybody sit in the classroom. Either you can deliver his IEP or you're denying his IEP. So I don't participate in those sorts of shenanigans.
My child has an uncertified SPED teacher for the 3rd year. What are your thoughts? What should we do?
So I would never say they're an uncertified SPED teacher. I would say my student's been denied a certified SPED teacher. There is an employee from the district in the room denying my student their service minutes. So it's very important that we don't use words like uncertified teacher. You're either required, you either have the credentialing to do the job that was posted, or you do not. And just know, lovely employees, that your attorney, your superintendent, your HR might say, oh, that's okay. We can do that in Dallas. That's fine. We can do that in Minnesota. It's fine in Florida. I would call your state education agency before you take a position that you are not fully credentialed to accept.
Is there a new app?
Yes, there is a new app, and I'm apt to have it. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, it's called Special Education Academy. I enjoy it so much. Do y'all all enjoy it? All of you nod. I do. Yeah, it's so good. So Special Education Academy is our app, so that everything you need is in the palm of your hand. Especially if you just want to hold up your phone in a meeting and go, this lady said, bum, bum, bum. No, I wouldn't do that. But all of our information comes out there, all of the podcasts. You can join our podcast, Special Education Boss, at all of the platforms. The app is on both app stores, or I don't know how many app stores there are. And the content that we post daily comes in the app, so you can have it all in one place.
My son was transferred to special education program, even though he doesn't have a diagnosis. He's only speech delayed, ?
So in special education, we're not talking about diagnosis, we're talking about eligibilities. So he's been found eligible to have a speech and or language impairment and in need of the services of a speech language therapist.
If you only find resolution through state complaints and errors keep occurring, should you keep filing?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. We keep filing till there's change for this child, and hopefully it permeates to others.
Someone wants you to know that her daughter's school hates her and hates to see her coming because she's learned so much from you about laws and requirements. And thank you.
Oh, you know what that requires? That's amazing. Yeah, I would rather be hated and my child get what they need than liked and being lied to.
What do you work for on a special education transportation services when it's a service?
What do you work for? I'm not sure what that means.
That's a good question. It's the letter D for the name, so if we see it come in. Can executive functioning skills be taught outside of the general education classroom?
They need to be taught with other children and other adults, but wherever the most appropriate place to work on them is deemed by the committee.
What can I do if our district is pushing for all special education minutes to be provided in general education?
No, you probably want to call the special education boss to come to a press conference. That's illegal. It's illegal. It's illegal. It's predetermination. And it's gross. I wish there was a better word for gross, but it's gross.
Okay. Is it legal for the special education department to not bill for special education services?
I don't know. Who are they billing? I don't know what that means.
Good question. That's Rebecca, just in case we see it come in on the bottom.
I would like to bill them. Can I start billing them?
Yes, ma'am.
Blazers. Yeah, because when I'm really stressed out, I have to buy more blazers. So, yeah.
There we go.
Which I have not bought a blazer in like 48 days. You know why? Because nobody wants a linen blazer. But August, here come all the wool blazers. So,
yay!
Yeah. Maybe when we're in DC next week at the Pentagon Mall. Did you guys know there's a Pentagon Mall that has 4 floors? Say it with me, 4. Maybe I can get a Pentagon blazer there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And that's only 23 days until August. At excellent. My
Cindy.
district uses SLP's license to sit in with the uncredentialed RSP teachers or interns while she teaches. Thoughts?
The speech pathologist sits in with special ed teachers? Is that the question? I'm not tracking.
Yes. SLPs sits in with uncredentialed RSP teacher / intern while she teaches.
You're either credentialed to teach the class that you are hired for or you are not. You either are or you ain't. There's no middle.
If a child has a social emotional goal on their IEP, who is responsible for monitoring their progress?
If it doesn't clarify, that would be everybody that student goes into their class.
What do I do if my brother's teacher isn't following his 504 plan? He has ADHD and GAD.
Well, first of all, he probably needs an IEP, but that's a conversation for another day. If the IEP, any program's not being followed, 504 IEP, I would email leadership and say, I believe that this is not being followed. Is there something you can do to rectify it? And then based upon that response, I would move forward with either a formal state written complaint. 504, you could do an amazing complaint with the Office of Civil Rights.
I saw the Mastermind and the 2-day intensive. Which one do I take first?
So you would have to take the 2-day intensive first, and we have a group mastermind coming up July 27th. It will be the only group mastermind that we have this year, because it's so intensive and it's so long. So if you're wanting to participate in the July 27th, 2025 mastermind, you have to take the 2-day ahead of time. It's a prerequisite because we do not discuss things that are taught in the 2-day in the mastermind.
Ancillary service providers in our district pride themselves on the quote-unquote try-treat, which is 3-on-1. Is this inappropriate?
I don't know what a try-treat is.
Good question. We'll see if it comes in on the bottom. Okay, no name. I have a question. If my son's doctor tests him for ADHD and doesn't have it, but let me see if there's more, want to put it on his IEP, should I let them?
So an eligibility simply opens the door for services. So if you want those services, I'd take it.
What happens after you file seems like an endless battle with the district who fail and refuse to follow.
Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree that it seems like that, but every time you do something good or you start to do something good, something hard will come along. And part of that hard of being an advocate is to keep at it until there's change for a child.
If a school holds an IEP meeting without the guardian's knowledge and ends services, what should I do?
Well, I mean, that's illegal. You didn't have a convened IEP meeting.
My son is finishing all of his work before his class. I want to change his placement, but he has SPED. Thoughts?
So sensory processing disorder is not really connected to finishing your work early. Oh, somebody said try treat. SLP, OT, and SW at the same time. Say it with me. No. 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 No, 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 no. Did I say no? Let me just clarify. No.
How many chances does the school have to remind a parent of an IEP meeting before holding it without them?
So they're not chances. Chances are stuff that we give children that we're babysitting. So they're legally required to notify the parent by snail mail, email, an invitation that goes home. I think in most jurisdictions it's going to be 3 times.
A friend of mine has a 4-year-old son who received an IEP about 15 months ago. very shortly after he was diagnosed with leukemia, and due to his circumstances surrounding that, the IEP lapsed. Is there some sort of clause that could keep the IEP active in this kind of situation? Or would they have to go through the eligibility process, excuse me, again, in order to qualify for their local special education preschool program?
So your IEP testing is good for 3 years. If you want to keep your IEP current, even if the student's not participating in it, even let's say that if a child was homeschooled, you just need to have the annual IEP meeting every year, even if the student doesn't go to that school.
What's the app again, please?
Special Education Academy.
Okay. In simple terms, can you explain the difference between a 504 and an IEP, and can I have both at the same time?
So the components of an IEP would the components of a 504 sit inside of an IEP because they're accommodations. So the 1973 Rehabilitation Act says that if you are in America and you are identified with a disability, you cannot be discriminated against and denied needed accommodations. So for those of us in the school that are school age, it applies at school called a 504. After that, it would apply in college, it would apply at your workplace. An IEP is an individualized education program, a product, a paperwork, a plan for a student to make progress in light of their circumstances, which includes services, supports, things that we're measuring, things that we're trying to mitigate.
What happens when the school refuses to have an annual IEP meeting while I'm homeschooling my son?
I've never come across that. They're bound to have the annual IEP meeting. I would say if they're refusing to have that annual IEP meeting, please provide me that refusal in a prior written notice.
Can a charter school refuse my request for speech, like pragmatic testing, if he does not have a current IEP?
You can always deny testing if it's never been done before.
What is the sale on in July?
The 2-day intensive on-demand recorded training.
Why is spelling not a disability?
It's not. It's an area of need, but it's not a disability category.
In my son's IEP, he gets a break if needed, but if his resource teacher isn't there, he does not get it. What can I do about this?
Take out words in a document that are discriminatory. If needed is discriminatory. That means somebody else, like I'm really tough, I probably wouldn't give you a break. Cindy's really nice, she probably would have given you 15 breaks. So we need to take out any language that's in an IEP that gives people a difference of opinion of how to deliver it.
What are your thoughts on virtual special education teachers with in-class paras providing support?
Or better, more importantly, these are my thoughts on that. Yeah, what the Hello Kitty are you talking about? If anybody should be that, what? We just have a para in a room down the hall and somebody's being teleported in from Star Trek? What are we talking about? The para supports the teacher of the record. If somebody needs to be in the room, it's the teacher of record. Are y'all just making this up? Are y'all making these settings up? You're just like, yeah.
So he only gets the break when his resource teacher is in her room. How can I fight this?
Okay, go back to the table and take out the word as needed. And then if it doesn't occur, you file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights. We have a digital product on our page, how to file an Office of Civil Rights complaint. I think it's 5.5 hours long, the training.
So when the school refused to hold the IEP meeting while being homeschooled, I got that in writing. Now what?
File a state complaint.
If we don't like virtual special education, then we shouldn't have virtual speech. Isn't that true?
So I've never let any of my clients accept virtual services. Don't do that. That's all something that was just, shoved down our throats during the pandemic. But there's no doubt that a service provided in person has a much greater impact than on the interweb. Although I love the interweb. I love that I know all of you from the interweb.
What do you typically find comes from a press conference? We definitely need you in Michigan.
A pair of pantyhose, police officers, and then I'm prepared. So that's all I need for press conference. Be prepared, the police, and pantyhose. And when I get somewhere, that's what happens. So we get a lot of reach. We get different outcomes for parents. And so we had a press conference recently for one of my friends where they put furniture to block their child in the school. And let me tell you, the meetings that went after that were totally different. RESPCT, find out what you mean to me. Yeah, so, my job at a press conference is to give a child that was already marginalized a voice so that the school district hopefully can have some public opinion pressure and they can stop their shenanigans.
Can a school deny a child an attendant if the school was given a form by my child's doctor?
I don't know what the form by your doctor. So the form says not to give them an attendant?
The doctor believes that the child should have an attendant, but the school is not providing one.
The doctor's not part of an IEP team. A doctor is not a stakeholder. And most doctors would like you to have, escargot and, high thread blankets, but that's not what happens in public school. So we meet as an IEP team, the consensus members, the parent, the LEA representative, the general ed teacher, the special education teacher, somebody that does assessments and can answer questions about the assessments, anybody else will be beneficial, and we make the decisions about how to craft an IEP for that student in those meetings.
Can parents bring their own goals and home data to meetings even if they don't have the background?
Everybody at the meeting they're equal stakeholders. So all case law indicates that parents are the expert in the child. And often you'll be in an IEP meeting with school-based members who are lovely and good-hearted, and they don't have any real solid training in writing IEP goals either.
Can you provide resource room within the general education classroom, or does it have to be outside the general education classroom?
A resource room under 300.115 in the federal code is a room solely with disabled children. So it would not be in a general ed class.
Are there homeschool programs for children with autism?
I don't know anything about homeschooling.
What is your thought if the special education teacher is also the SC floor manager and is always out of the classroom?
The floor manager, like at Dillard's and Neiman Marcus, is that kind of floor manager? Like we're going to get good seats at the front? I think whatever role you have, you should do that one role.
Here's one of my favorites. How many rounds of intervention are needed before I can ask for an evaluation?
0, 0, 0. Or -3. -3. None ya. Yeah, the law doesn't say that. That's something that districts have made up and made their employees believe it's true. The law says this, 300.111. The LEA, the local education agency, is obligated to ILE, identify, locate, and evaluate children with suspected disabilities who may be in need of special education and related services. That's it. It doesn't say anything else. So anything you have added onto it, your leadership are liars.
I have a student in ABA for 3 out of 5 school days. Should his schedule of services reflect this?
I mean, the IEP is written for the instructional day at school. So if you're pulling your child out of school, there's no true obligation for the district to implement the IEP with fidelity. And I would never have my client do that. I would sit down with my client and say, listen, they're two totally different products, special education and ABA. I would say, what do you think is the most pressing need for your child right now, and try and do that path.
Is there a time limit for an IEP meeting? Because they keep trying to cut me off at the end, so I will not ask any questions.
Yeah, so I would say I'm greatly concerned Because it sounds like you are cutting me off and not letting me have meaningful participation. Is that what's occurring? Because if you're going to cut me off, please provide that cutoff and the prior written notice within at the close of business. And if that keeps happening, I would reach out to the special education director. Often things that are going on your IEP meeting, leadership that could bring about change doesn't know. We just think because it's a big deal to us, that it's a big deal to everybody else. So almost always, not always, but almost always there is somebody somewhere at your school district that's willing to listen to your concerns and make adjustments in those meetings. If not, I would file a state complaint. The first thing that the parents are allowed to have is meaningful participation and in the IEP process. And if you're cutting me off, you are not allowing that to occur. Thanks, you guys, for all the gifts.
What is the best special education book?
What's the best special education book? The one that is about to come out from Special Education Boss. But before that one comes out, I mean, certainly get Rights Law, Special Education Law, and their other book, From Emotions to Advocacy. They're phenomenal. And any book that you can get from the great, amazing, legendary Mitchell Yelm.
True. How and where can you find your state's policies and procedures to ensure that the LEAs are following the LREs?
So when you go to an IEP meeting, they're required to provide you a copy of your state's procedural rights and safeguards. So that should have been provided to you on the invitation of an IEP meeting, at the conclusion of an IEP meeting, and it's on your district's website.
Can a school deny a classroom placement, for example, co-taught, on an IEP because of lack of space?
Space has nothing to do with a federal obligation.
As a homeschooler who is special needs, is there anything the school district is required to provide me?
So that would be something that you'd want to ask your parents because you're a minor. I wouldn't want to answer that question for you, but your mom and dad should be able to help you with that.
How come predetermination seems impossible to prove? The principal stated HR said no, but HR wasn't at the IEP meeting.
So HR is not part of the IEP meeting. So I don't even know why HR is piping up. So of course that's predetermination. That happened outside of our meeting.
Do schools have to consider outside evaluations?
They have to receive them, which is a very low bar of considering them.
Is a diagnosis required for a 504?
Nope, never has been.
What is the name of the app, please?
Special Education Academy, where you can get amazing benefit and good browse. That was for a friend of mine. So, did she even smile? She didn't even smile when I said that. Elena, are you even paying attention? I said amazing benefit and good browse. But not bum. We're doing a webinar with Elena in the fall. The Brow Adventure of 2025. It's not as easy as one might think.
Correct. It could burn.
Yeah.
My county fired all paras my son had. My county fired all paras my son had. What should I do?
So, I mean, whether a district keeps an employee or not has nothing, it's not our concern. Our concern is that the IEP is implemented with fidelity. So we look forward to you implementing it with fidelity when school starts. Buttercup. Or depending where you are, you can always go with pumpkin.
I love pumpkin. How does IEP work with homeschool?
It doesn't. An IEP is in a public school that your student is enrolled in.
Hi, I'm a new resource teacher. I'm teaching kindergarten through 2nd grade. I taught kindergarten for 10 years previously. Advice, what can I do to prepare?
Yeah, I mean, thank God for resource teachers. It changed my son's life. Just remember that you are delivering the special education to the student and try not to get distracted by lunatic advocates, goofy attorneys, and funky leaders at your school. And remember that the focus is the child.
Okay, so the question, as a homeschool who is special needs, is there anything the school district is required to provide? They typed in, sorry, there was limited space. I am the mom. So that homeschool question.
Yeah, so when you remove your child from a district, that's a decision that you make. And so there are some districts that will provide some related services after appropriate testing, but you would have to make your student available. But they have no obligation to provide any service in your home.
Is emotional intelligence an acceptable thing to have on an IEP?
No, it's an acceptable thing to have. And I've been chasing it for years. So, yeah.
My daughter is on her second year in a self-contained class, ASD level 3, and is there anything else I can do for her?
So I'm really uncomfortable with these levels. ASD 3, moderate, severe. And while I understand what you mean, it doesn't tell me the student's unique circumstances. It tells me about something that she was determined to have during some formal testing. But that aside, I want to make sure that my student has as much inclusion time as appropriate. Very rarely in the last 29 years would I found a child that needs to be in a self-contained class all day. So I would begin to ask the district, when will she be having general ed time? Start maybe with science and social studies, something like that. Certainly ancillary times, music, PE, art, electives, something like that.
Oh, and there was a little thing added. There is no teacher in her classroom.
Oh, that's a state complaint all day long.
Let's see. As a homeschool mom with special needs kids, is there anything the school district is required? Oh, we already did that one. Apologize. Our speech pathologist regularly misses services and her push-in model is inconsistent. What can be done?
So I would just let the principal know that you're going to be requesting compensatory time for the special education services that were denied to your student.
Can we ask to limit the amount of homework for a second grader because he gets overstimulated and just cannot finish?
Yeah. I mean, I have some of my kids have no homework. There's no academia, assessment, research that says any minor benefits from homework. Man, I don't care what you think. I'm not wrong. Not wrong. Only adults drink a pot of coffee at 8 o'clock at night and keep working because they have a mortgage. So these little cherubs go to school all day long. I don't know why we're having them do homework. I mean, I really don't.
How do you balance being a special education teacher and a special education parent?
With grace and poise. It's tough. Probably 20-25% of our clients are school-based staff members. So it's very delicate balance.
Can the school district deny the RBT to go with my son to school when they have already had the RBT for 2 years prior?
Yep. No requirements for RBTs in schools.
Does the district have an obligation to give transportation for after-school activities for IEP students?
Not if they're not tied to an instructional block of time. So let's say that your child is in the marching band, and it's marching band season and it's football game season. Obviously going to the football games and marching is tied to your grade. So if it's something like that, then there's an obligation. But if it's not tied to your grade, like pep squad and, the Lego club or how to get your hair big with hairspray and a back comb club, those probably aren't tied to an academic requirement from your state.
What do I do? My daughter has not had a teacher for 2 years. She's in a special day class and she's 15 years old.
File a state complaint immediately.
What are the cons to setting due process complaints at mediation in lieu of a hearing officer?
What are the cons of setting a due process?
Settling.
Well, there's always pros and cons. I don't know. Of course, mediation is sealed. The pro is that hopefully in that mediated settlement, that it's enough to resolve the past denial of FAPE to your child. The cons are that it's sealed. You can't bring it up again, and everything from that date back that you've already filed on is already resolved.
Tomorrow, I am having a meeting to reclassify my child from developmentally delayed to SLD. Any advice for me?
Just make sure that you have a robust present level that shows the need for those SLDs, appropriate IEP goals that are attached to that SLD, and the correct supporting service minutes to work on those IEP goals.
How does one go about getting reimbursed for a private neuropsychological evaluation from the DOE?
You don't. You don't. Whatever you choose to do privately was your choice. There's not an obligation for the district to invest in private assessments.
The school said no one is denying services. We just don't have the staff. Now what?
File a state complaint? Yeah. If you don't have the staff, you're denying services. Yeah.
My son is in a private school. He was supposed to have services last year and he didn't get them. He's OHI. Thoughts?
He's in a private school?
Yes.
And he was supposed to have services?
That's what it says.
Yeah, private schools are not obligated to provide special education services under federal or state law.
The school canceled my son's speech therapy for the summer. His school is all year round. Is this okay?
And it's not legal?
How does one go about getting reimbursement for... Oh, we already had that. We're stupid.
For hairspray and blazers and a neuropsych? You don't.
Are there specific requirements for homeschooling your special needs child?
I don't serve children that are homeschooled. I serve children between the ages of 3 and 22 that need special education and related services or 504 in public schools.
I have several students who are always absent on their speech days, and I've contacted the parents. Is makeup time needed?
It's not required. If the student is not available, if the parent does not make the student available during the service time, there's no obligation for the district to make up those times.
Okay, we have time for a few more. How do you request no homework or only doing enough work to show comprehension?
Comprehension should be shown at school, not at home. I would just say we will attempt, when Kat gets home tonight, we will attempt the homework, and then I will put a post-it note of what occurred. That's it.
I'm taking a new position in the fall, and the principal only wants push-in services, but I disagree. Anything I can do about this?
I mean, you can pray for your leadership to, obviously get repair from the rock he hit his head on. But the law is the law, and I would tell your leadership that I am not willing to put my licensure in play when we're denying the student a complete LRE.
Am I required to send a student who has a non-certified substitute in their resource class?
Are you required to send them there?
Yes.
I think whatever the student's instructional schedule is the instructional schedule. If those services didn't occur in that room, that's not your responsibility, but I certainly would, let the powers be know that his IEP is not being implemented with fidelity.
And the last one, our daughter is behind 2 years in reading levels and received their RTI Tier 3. She is dyslexic. What classifies needing an IEP at this point?
That you have a deficit that solely can't be addressed by the general ed staff alone. Somebody just said, I just want to read this. Seems like there's a serious shortage of teachers nowadays. AI will take over since people don't want to be certified teachers. I don't know about that, but AI can not do special education. They could do some general ed though. I do love a good AI. My boyfriend made ChatGPT. We spend a lot of time together. He's very smart. But I figure he's smart because somebody else already said it and he just heard it over the interweb. So, one more question. I'm in an admin role who has concerns about SPED director, lack of supervision or support. What are my options? Well, Millie Do, 92. You could come train and be an advocate. Here's the thing. Your leadership knows if your leadership is doing something right, they know it. And listen to me. If they're doing something wrong, they know it. Right? So you're not going to change your leadership. You could change working there, but you're not going to change leadership. And the quicker you know that, you might have the ability to pivot to another job or another vocation. So we love you guys. If you need anything, let us know. Remember, for the month of July, doesn't matter when you start it, when you go and purchase the 2-day on-demand, it is half price. When you check out, just put in the word July, solely for the month of July 2025. We will be going live from Washington, D.C. on the Capitol. Stephanie doesn't know this, but she's planning it. So we're so excited about taking our legislative concerns to the Hill. And so that will be next week. Bum, 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 bum. So we will not be here. Maybe we'll just do it live from there. We could just go live from the TikTok in front of the Capitol. The Capitol. Yeah. It'll be good and sunny there. I'll have my hairspray because, you can't take your hairspray into the Capitol. Somebody said, are you going to run for office? I said, I was going to run for office, but then we got to the Capitol. They said I couldn't bring in my hairspray. I said, well, then I will serve families on the outside. If you guys need anything, let us know. Follow Special Education Boss Podcast. Download the app, Special Education Academy. Remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in next training.